Hello, fight fans, and welcome to our preview of Flex Fight Series 16. We are moving on into September 10th, looking at an all-pro main card. We have 20 fights on our prelims, all amateur, 15 MMA, including 4 title fights, and then on the main card, 7 fights, all pro MMA. I am TJ Ragusa, joined by James Leonelli and Xaria Bloom. James, we'll start with you. We're looking forward to a huge card in September. How are you feeling today going into next month's card?
Well, once again, we are making history at Flex. There has never been another promotion to do pro MMA on Long Island outside of the UFC. So we're the first non-UFC event to be doing pro MMA on Long Island. And that I think is incredible. And I think it's just the start because so many of these fighters that are fighting on our main card are homegrown. These are fighters that we had as amateurs throughout our years as different promotions. And now they're fighting back with us as pros. I think that really says something about the experience the fighters have at Flex. Xaria, tell me what you're feeling leading into this pro main card.
I have been chomping at the bit, honestly. We had our month off in August and now we are back and we have a huge card. We have our amateur fights. We have 20 fights, 15 pro MMA on the prelims. And then we have these 7 pro fights, which are just, we have a few guys making their pro debuts. We have Dylan Montello versus Omar Avelar, which I can't wait as the main event of the evening. And I just can't wait to start, to be back in there with you guys, to be back in there with the whole Flex crew. And we're in the new venue, All Sports Arena in Melville. So I'm excited to be in this venue and just get everything underway.
All super exciting news. As you mentioned, Xaria Bloom, the main event of the evening is going to be Dylan Montello versus Omar Avelar. So a really awesome addition to the card, as Dylan will be actually returning to the Flex cage. Technically the last time he was with us, we were Triton fights, but wonderful to have him back following his stint in Eagle FC. He also had some experience in bare knuckle fighting. So him at the top of the card. But in the co-main event, we have Adam Livingston versus Mazzaro Glunder. This is the long-awaited debut of Adam Livingston as a professional fighter. And today we're actually going to have a chance to speak with him in just a few short minutes. So that's a really fun treat for you fans out there. We're going to be speaking with a number of the pro fighters from the main card. And really, as we look at that fight from the outside looking in, it is intriguing and exciting for a lot of reasons. And Xaria, we'll start with you. A lot of different energies coming into this. It's definitely a new thing for Adam becoming a professional, but at the same time, it's kind of same, is it not?
Yeah, I got to talk to Adam at the open workouts that we had, and I was just talking to him since he has had, I believe he's had 4 knockouts, 3 round 1 knockouts, and 1 round 2 knockouts. So his fights have been pretty quick, and that title defense, where he unfortunately, suffered his first loss in the Flex cage. He was just talking to me about how it made him grow and how it made him change. And that's what it's all about. So I'm really excited to see him step into that ring with a stronger mentality, having gone through that adversity. And I can't wait to talk to him again.
It's always something fun to see how a fighter responds to loss. And Adam has been fighting on a high for a really long time. He's been riding that wave of win after win after win, and more importantly, knockout after knockout after knockout for quite a while. And then he meets Loai in our cage in May, and he hits the man just like he said everybody else, but Loai didn't fall down. And to see how a fighter picks himself back up after a moment like that, I'm very interested to see not only how Adam is going to perform in the cage, but also what it's going to be like for him preparation-wise mentally. I'm interested to talk to him today. We got to speak with him at the open workouts, and I got to hold the mitts for him a little bit, get a sweat all over me. And I'll be interested to see how that loss has affected his mentality and what it's changed for him preparation-wise. I can't imagine the rule set is that much different than what he's used to, because as a gentleman with as many amateur mixed martial arts fights as he has, the advanced amateurs rule set is very similar to the pro rule set. You can't knee the head, you can't elbow, and you can't do heel hooks or any twisting leg locks, really. But I think pretty much it's similar beyond that. And I don't think it's going to create any more anxiety. If anything, I think it'll create more diverse tools for Adam to use against a very game opponent in Mazzaro Glunder. TJ, tell me what you're thinking leading into that fight.
As you mentioned, James, one of the things that I'm really thinking about and looking forward to is to see how that change in the rule set affects both Adam and some of the other fighters who we have making their professional debuts on this card, such as Rocco Giambrone and Andrew Stock. But that is a really interesting point of contention just for me, for generally looking into this fight now, because you think about, like you said, the elbows. That's a big thing that I think is a huge difference between the pro rule set and the amateur rule set in the state of New York, because elbows can be so damaging, and it's a mystery for us as of yet, just to what extent Adam has that in his toolbox, or if Massaro has that in his toolbox as well, because we haven't really seen much out of him in just one pro fight so far. So that's going to be very interesting to see how that comes into play. As you mentioned, the heel hooks as well, the knees to the head. So a lot of different weapons can come into play here that can be additional factors in this fight. So that's going to be fun to watch for me personally. And now just awaiting Adam to come into the room now. He'll be joining us at 10:30. So let's take some time now to talk about the rest of the main card. You move down from there, and we're looking at, as I mentioned, Rocco Giambrone, the former bantamweight champion for us at the amateur ranks, fighting out of Renzo Gracie. He'll be taking on Anthony Sanchez in a mutual debut at bantamweight. And James, what are some of the things that you're looking out of that fight, out of Rocco and out of his opponent in Anthony?
Well, what's always so impressive to me is Rocco's ground game. Now, I mean, the guy's got good hands, don't get me wrong, but his ground game is so impressive. As someone who spent a lot of my life training, to see someone who's that technical on the ground, who thinks in combinations, who's setting up, who's really playing the chess that jiu-jitsu can be. He's not just thinking one move ahead, he's thinking 2 or 3 or 4 moves ahead. And that is so cool, the way he rolls his opponent right into this wave. And as they catch the wave, man, that wave runs them over. I remember his last amateur fight that he got this guy to the ground, and it was just complete domination. It was really, really impressive. And such a cool guy, like so humble. He trains with a lot of our crew, D-Rock and Andrew Park and all of them. And after his fight, he's going around, he's giving all those guys gifts. He wins the fight. They helped him. He's giving them gifts. Like he wasn't just a man in the arena. I think that just speaks to his personality.
Yeah, I mean, Rocco is from Team Renzo Gracie, so the Gracie Academy. Those are the godfathers of jiu-jitsu. He's a purple belt, a 3-time amateur MMA champ, and he's at 8-3 record as an amateur, and 4 of those wins were by submission. So rear naked choke, guillotine, and armbar for his most recent finish. I am so excited to see him and how he matches up, how his striking has improved, and what he's changed about his striking going into this fight as a pro, because his ground game is pretty solid. He's coming from a jiu-jitsu background, but like you guys were just saying, the elbows are a factor now. I mean, also he's got heel hooks that he could do in this pro debut, so we might see a new submission from him. But I'm really excited to see him get in there and see what he does.
Well, absolutely. If he's coming out of Renzo Gracie, I have to correct you. Sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, Renzo Gracie. Coming from that background, that's where the Danaher Death Squad is. The guys who are taking over the submission grappling world, and as such, they are known for their leg locks, and that's going to be an amazing tool for Rocco to have in his back pocket if he's been working them. I'm sure he has been. If you're in a room with those guys, you have no choice but to working leg locks. So I'll be interested to see how he can work that. And like you said, the elbows on the ground, that is a huge factor. That opens up a whole other area of striking. And so much jiu-jitsu, there isn't enough space to really let your hands go, so to speak. But there's definitely room to throw a couple of elbows, and those elbows can mess somebody up. So, I mean, I'm looking forward to that aspect of it. And that's just one of our pro fights. We have so many more pro fights. Again, we have 7 total pro fights on this main card, and it's spectacular to look at. We have some really great experience on this card. We have fighters, we have some people making their pro debuts, but we also have fighters that have 19, 20, 21 pro fights already. And that's a high level for a local MMA show, for something outside of the UFC. That's a lot of experience. And even the guys who are making their pro debuts, so many of them have a ton of amateur fights. And that is huge. We haven't even touched on the preliminary card yet, which we'll do so in a little while as we await some of our fighters coming in. But I mean, once again, talking about this Rocco Giambrone fight, I mean, TJ, you've been commentating longer than both Xaria and I. You probably have more experience in Rocco. What has your experience with Rocco been like?
As you mentioned, James, my experience with Rocco is that he is a gentleman. He is a perfect gentleman, one of the nicest guys that you would ever want to meet in the sport. You mentioned the example of him going and handing out gifts to his coaches after winning his last fight, and really just the consummate professional. And that's something that I think is going to carry him very well forward into his professional career and into this pro debut, is that he is that consummate professional. He is the guy with that rigid structure who holds himself accountable. He has a very high level of discipline. So seeing all of that in his amateur career, it's only helped me to think that going forward he's going to have a lot of success as a professional because he's already doing a lot of the right things. And I just wanted to touch on something that you said there, James. We have a few fighters with very extensive amateur records coming in, also with some pro MMA experience, taking on some other veterans. With, you mentioned 19 fights. That man was Shedrick Goodridge, and he's on a very quick turnaround here, coming off of his kickboxing title fight against Alpha Torre at Flex Fight Series 15. And I mean, what a warrior is this veteran? He had almost 3 years off. His last fight prior to July had been in 2019. So now just 2 months later in September, coming back, taking on Kareem Klein in the fourth fight of Kareem's pro MMA career. He also has a very healthy amount of pro kickboxing experience. James, we'll start with you on that one. What are you looking for out of that matchup that is sure to produce some fireworks?
Well, it's definitely going to produce fireworks. But speaking of fireworks, looks like we have Adam Livingston on the line. I don't know if you guys are ready, but I am ready to put this man in here. So I will bring him in. TJ, if you would like to greet this man and let him know what's going on. Here we go, folks. Adam the Bomb Livingston.
And here he
Hello.
is, the former Army lightweight champ, now making his professional debut. Adam, the Atom Bomb Livingston, thank you so much for your time this morning, my friend. How are you today? I understand you're on your way into training right now.
Hey man, what's up? Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm all good. Just pulled up to the gym, doing this, and then got some last hard training days before slowing it down before fight week.
That's right. We're just about into fight week now. Today, as we record, is the Tuesday prior to fight week, so just under 2 weeks to prepare now. And you're coming into your pro debut, and we'll jump right in here. What do you think is going to be the difference? I mean, is anything different? Obviously, you had a lot of success as an amateur. You were an amateur champion with an extensive record of knockouts, impressive victories. Is there anything that's changing in your preparation? And if so, what would those changes be?
Yeah, definitely a little bit. Definitely more of the mindset, I'd say, is the difference. More of becoming an actual professional. You know, not just an amateur. Doing it for fun. There's more of a mindset change, and of course the 5-minute rounds. My conditioning is definitely more on point now. I'm prepared for the 3 5-minute rounds, and just being more patient, really picking my shots, and being more smart in there, and not just throwing to the wind. You know, I definitely got to be more calculated. You don't want to gas out by the end of the 3rd round, and just taking it even more serious than I was before.
Definitely an adjustment there with the 5-minute rounds. So great to hear the conditioning is coming into play there. You're starting to make those extra steps in those preparations, and really, and you look at your opponent here, guy in Massaro Glunder, who we don't necessarily know too much about, only one pro fight. And what have you seen out of him as an opponent? Do you think that he's going to play into you stylistically? Like, where do you think your advantages are against a guy like Massaro?
Honestly, doesn't really matter. I haven't even done much research onto the guys because I've been through already like 4 different opponents for this fight already. So it's been changing constantly. So I've just been really focusing on myself for this fight and just improving on what I can improve on. And literally, they could change the opponent the day of the fight, and I won't have no problem with that. And I'm just ready to go and get a nice finish like I usually do, and not leave it into the judges' hands like last time because, I don't agree with the judges all the time. So, yeah, I'm ready to just finish this guy. If he wants to go to the ground, I'm ready for the ground. I've definitely been working on my ground game extremely hard, and just, obviously tweaking my stand-up more and more every time.
All right, so Adam, I did a little bit of research on Massaro for you. And one thing I noticed is his background, where it comes from. It comes from Mike's Gym. For those of you guys not familiar with Mike's Gym, the most famous product of Mike's Gym is a berserker by the name of Melvin Manhoef. And if you have not watched Melvin Manhoef fight, watch the Symphony of Violence. That is him versus Evangelista Cyborg Santos. You can find the fight on YouTube, but it's very stereotypical of the Mike's Gym style. Very shoot the box, big hooks, big round kicks. And I mean, I think fighting a gentleman such as yourself who has dynamite in his hands, this just has exciting fight written all over it. So knowing that you're fighting another fellow striker, a guy with Muay Thai and kickboxing fights in his background, does that excite you that much more than someone who has a grappling background?
Yeah, 100%. Even though a lot of these guys, they might be strikers, but usually at the end of the day, after I land a few shots of them, they all turn into wrestlers somehow. And so let's see if he really wants to stand and bang. I used to train. Actually, when I first started training, I trained shoot box back in Queens and Brooklyn. So I definitely have that in my my arsenal as well. And if he wants to stand and bang, I'm more than willing to do that. But I'm sure he's probably gonna end up shooting for a shot like every one of my past opponents have. But he's in for a rude awakening if he shoots on me.
And looking at your last fight, obviously you had Loweye, who did shoot quite a bit, and you guys had one heck of an exciting fight. Obviously, the judges felt that he did enough to win the fight. Tell me what you're thinking mindset-wise coming off of a loss, because that's always telling to me what a fighter's thinking, what that does to them, what adjustments they're making coming out of the fight. So please tell me what's changed for you mindset-wise after this.
Yeah, honestly, I've had a loss before, and it only makes me better. It just motivates me more. It doesn't bring me down whatsoever. And a lot in this fight, honestly, just proved more to myself that I'm not just a one-trick pony. I could do it all. I could withstand a war. I have the heart. I have the grit. Obviously, it's not like I got dominated or anything and had a loss that way. So that would be, obviously a little. That would suck. But knowing that we're just toe to toe the whole time, and I guess the judges saw it just a little way by split decision, doesn't bother me at all. It just gave me a lot more reasons to train harder for a more dominant win, and it's nice to actually have a full fight to look back on and study what I did wrong, what I could do better, and stuff like that. Unlike my past fights that were just quick knockouts, and I couldn't really learn much about myself under the lights. So if anything, it just made me a better fighter, this loss, technically. But yeah, it was a learning experience, and I'm just getting better every fight.
Hey, Adam. Oh,
hey,
sorry to cut you. Sorry to cut you off there, James. I'll let you finish up if you had a follow-up question. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I love to hear, Adam, that you're learning from it. My coach always says that you learn more from a loss than from a win. So the fact that you're being, even though this is your professional debut, the fact that you're being a professional and taking in that whole fight and looking at the strengths and the weaknesses, because as human beings, we tend to love our strengths a little more than our weaknesses. So the fact that you're being such a professional just speaks to how far you're going to go in this game.
100%. Thank you.
All right. Hey, Adam.
Hey.
It's great to be talking with you again. It was great to talk with you at the open workouts, a little bit about how your mentality's changed, just like James was asking you. You are 21 years old. You are going pro. You are very young. This is early to be going pro. You've had 4 knockouts in your career. Adaptability is the name of the game. And your last fight was a war. And I think it's forced you to, reevaluate your approach and be even more adaptable than you've already been. So I want to talk a little bit about what you've changed and as far as strength and conditioning goes to prepare for these 5-minute rounds that you're going to be entering into as a pro, and then also who you've been training with as far as like wrestling and jiu-jitsu, what your training partners, who they've been like going to prepare you for this fight.
Yeah, definitely. So one of the biggest things I actually started strength conditioning now for the first time. So I have a private strength and conditioning coach I go train with twice a week, and I've been doing that now for about 12 my pro debut after that last fight. So I got right on it as soon as possible. And it's changed my physique. You're gonna see I'm definitely way more lean than I was in my previous fights. My weight's super low. Honestly, I could make 45 if I really wanted to, but I'm definitely staying at 55 because I'm not trying to kill myself, and I'm a pretty big 55 anyway. But yeah, my cardio is on point, and I just been this is the first after this last fight. I just stayed in the gym. I didn't let myself get out of shape like I usually do between fights. So I just been constantly training, grappling, pushing myself to the limit, and the strength conditioning coach definitely changed strength and conditioning wise, agility wise. You're going to see me definitely light on my feet, moving around a lot, especially now that we're in a bigger cage for the pro debut. It definitely will play to my strengths. Before I was locked in that tiny cage as an amateur against all these wrestlers, and my big part of my game is my movement, and it was hard to move in a small cage like that, but I still found success. And yeah, the guys I train with at Long Island MMA, the best of the best in New York, the East Coast, obviously. We have Ryan LaFleur, Brian Michelino, Greg as my coaches. They're both Greg and Brian, high-level black belts, and they really take their time to teach me and go over these moves that are realistic and doable. We're not a lot of the moves that we do are very MMA jiu-jitsu. It's not like I'm going to be pulling guard and doing all these things. It's very realistic for it to work in the fight. And obviously, I have my teammates, Tom Pooch, that just, he just won his pro fight this past weekend. We have Ashik, he's a CES champion, John Caldone, Jason Downer, all these great guys from Long Island MMA that pushed me to my limits. And I get definitely different looks from all of them, taller guys, shorter guys, wrestlers, strikers. So, I'm definitely well-rounded, and I'm ready to go.
Yeah, there's definitely, I mean, at Long Island in general, I feel like there's a very big wrestling heavy community. So if you have that striking experience, it's a good place to come, Long Island, to learn that ground game, because there are so many wrestlers coming out of Long Island, and Long Island MMA, it does have a bunch of them. So that's amazing. And I know that your mentality going into this fight is strong. I know you just celebrated a birthday, your 21st birthday, and you had your head in the game, and it's all gonna hopefully, in that cage, you're gonna put on an amazing performance either way. I'm sure of that. And just good luck to you. It's amazing getting to speak with you. And I'm gonna send it back over to TJ, or if you have anything final that you would like to say, please share that.
I'm just really excited, and it's been even though this hasn't been too long since my last fight. If you look at my my amateur record, I like to say super active. So this has actually been like my longest layoff per se. It's been about 5 or 6 months, 5 months or so. And usually I fight like every 2 months. So you're definitely going to see a big improvement because I had a lot more time to really sharpen the tools.
Just over 3 months layoff. So really no time in between, man. Adam Livingston is keeping it moving. He is looking for the finish. As he mentioned, he doesn't want to leave it to the judges on September 10th. And Adam, thank you so much for taking the time. We know you have a very busy training schedule heading into fight week, and we really appreciate you taking the time today.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate talking to you, and I'll see you guys September 10th. It's going to be a good one.
See you then, brother. Best of luck. Thanks again.
Good luck.
Yeah.
All right, so that was Adam, the Atom Bomb Livingston, heading into his pro debut. Again, the former amateur flex fight series lightweight champion, moving on to the pro ranks, looking to make good on that debut. And he will be taking on Massaro Glunder in the co-main event on September 10th. And I mean, guys, just coming out of that interview, this guy's energy is feeling good. It feels a little bit different, but very much that same air of confidence that he carried with himself as an amateur.
Absolutely. It's nice to see, someone so young, 21 years old is young, and to see that mentality shift in him after that. I mean, his fight for that title defense was a war. That was nonstop back and forth. And he hit his opponent, Lau, with big shots. So to see his confidence level still up there right now, and to see him still, like, I think he's even more focused than ever from the energy that I got from him, just from open workouts and just from this interview right now. It's nice to see the progression of a fighter and that adaptability.
There's one word I usually don't describe Adam Livingston with. He looked chill. He looked chill. Usually he's very high energy. Leading into like the first time I got to see Adam fight in February versus in May, all those times amped up, big energy, very calm, very chill. And I wonder if that's some of the lessons that he's learned from the loss that he took to Loi after that absolute war, like you said. And I think this opponent that he has coming for him, Masaru Glunder, this has fight of the night written all over it. That Mike's Gym style of just a guy who's just coming forward, swinging. Again, I urge you guys, if you are not familiar with Mike's Gym, if you're not familiar with Melvin Manhoef, go on YouTube, search Melvin Manhoef, Manhoef versus Cyborg Santos. And it was described by Mauro Ranallo as a symphony of violence. And I've never heard a more apt description of a fight. But if you want to see what Mike's Gym is all about, that's Mike's Gym in a nutshell. And that's that come forward, head forward, big punches, big kicks. To me, that sounds like exactly what Adam likes to do. And that should be a very fun fight. It's interesting to look at Masaru's record. His one MMA loss is to another kickboxing legend in Andy Sauer. And he loses via armbar to Andy Sauer. So it makes you wonder, does Masaru have it in his back pocket to shoot in for the takedown? Or is he going to be stuck standing and banging with Adam Baum? Because that's the case. Somebody's going to be face down on the canvas by the end of the night, that's for sure. TJ, what else did you take from the interview that we just did?
Well, definitely, as you mentioned, it's going to be interesting to see if Masaru has that tool in his toolbox, because of what Adam had mentioned specifically. That kind of caught my attention before when he said, if he shoots on me, there's going to be problems. So I think Adam now has a little bit more of an extensive game plan on the ground. And we mentioned some of the more extensive ground and pound options once you get there. But I mean, we'll see if the fight even gets there. As we've seen time and time again with Adam, a lot of the time these fights don't get to the ground because he has excellent takedown defense and because he has those dynamite hands that he has. It creates a car crash when he comes together with these guys, and he's usually on the winning side of that. So it's really going to be interesting to see how Masaru's style comes together and clashes with that of Adam's. Adam being a counter striker, Masaru presumably being a guy who's going to move forward. So that all is going to be very fun to watch. And we're looking ahead now. We actually have Rebecca Brigman, who we are hoping is going to be able to join the show now. We have not heard from her just yet this morning, but we do have her scheduled. Could be some training conflict there. But anyway, let's talk a little bit about her fight here coming up with the first fight on the main card. She's going to be taking on Samantha Schell in a pro catchweight MMA bout at 112 pounds. And both of these ladies coming in with some solid experience. And it's going to be fun. We're getting the main card started with the ladies. Zaria, we'll start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. The ladies always bring a different energy, and I'm excited that they're kicking off the main card. Women are, I feel like the female fights are a little bit more like, there's just a different vibe, more calculated. Maybe it's that web thinking. I don't really know. But Rebecca has crazy energy. I loved her energy at the open workouts. She was just confident. She, is in a new gym. She's with East Coast MMA now. She seemed just very settled into herself. She felt good. She was telling me she has a nutritionist now. So that's changed a lot. That's taken a lot of the stress off of the fight camp, because, food and your diet is such a big part when you're going into a fight. So to not have to stress about food and to have that nutritionist and take the weight off in a healthy way that could just make a world of difference in a fighter's mentality going into a fight. So she seemed calm, she seemed confident, but she brought that Rebecca Carnage Rampage energy, and she was showing some of her groundwork, which looks pretty solid, her striking, and I'm really excited to see her get into the cage. She's 2-1 as an amateur, and then she's stepping back into our cage as a pro now. and she had two bouts canceled on her. So that's got to be frustrating. So I'm sure she's chomping at the bit to kind of get back in there. And I'm just so excited to see her make that pro return in the cage of Flex. You know, James, you got to also talk with Rebecca a little bit at the open workouts, and you know, what did you pick up on that, on her mentality and everything?
Well, I was taken by her energy. Unfortunately, I didn't get to interact with her a whole heck of a lot because I was at my school teaching, and then I had to come to the open workouts a little bit later, and then very quickly I got put behind a set of mitts and tie pads to hold pads for the fighters and for the crowd. Not that I minded, but I didn't get as much of a chance to interact with Rebecca as I would have liked. But I still came over, shook my hand, gave me a hug at the end of the day. So super friendly, but again, like you said, brings that energy. You could see how amped up she was. And it was funny. I took something, this is going to sound silly or whatever, but I took something from her outfit. She came to the open workouts in like denim cutoff shorts. I'm like, okay, all right. Still kind of, for lack of a better word, still kind of badass. Like she's still like, she's hanging out the tough, even in her outfit. Like, you know, we had Kareem Klein there in his fight shorts, Adam Livingston, same thing in his fight shorts. Dariella there in her fight shorts, but not Rebecca Star Brigman comes in her denim cutoff shorts with all the holes cut in them, rowdy and ready to throw. And I was like, all right, like that spoke to me big time. I looked a little into her opponent as well, and what spoke to me is her opponent, three professional fights, all losses by unanimous decision, and all of Rebecca's wins as an amateur are by unanimous decision. That means we have some ladies who are prepared to go the duration. That means these ladies are prepared for 15 solid minutes of action, which in my opinion makes knowing a fight can end at any moment is really exciting, but knowing that it could end at any moment, but also could be a 15-minute war, that's pretty fun to watch.
Absolutely. Both of these ladies have that, you know, fire behind them because, you know, Rebecca is 0-2 and Samantha is 0-3. They both need this win. And the energy that is going to open up that pro card because of that is just, I cannot wait to see it. It's going to be electric. You know, Samantha Shell coming out of Shell Shock MMA. It's a pro catchweight MMA fight, and it's just, I mean, I can't wait. And Rebecca, for whatever reason, I don't know if she's going to get upset with me for saying this, but I got to say it anyway. She kind of brings like she reminds me a little bit of like Miley Cyrus, like that, like wild, you know, you don't know what's going to happen kind of energy. And I mean, I love Miley Cyrus personally, so, you know, whatever, but I think it's a good thing that she's like that. And I'm interested to see that, you know, her whole persona, like in the cage, and just like see these two ladies duke it out because, you know, they both have that fire behind them, both being not having any wins as pros. So hopefully Rebecca can hop on here and join us. TJ, have you heard back from Rebecca?
I actually have. So she just finished up her hot yoga session. She's gonna grab a quick bite to eat, and she's gonna join us. So again, always got to bear with the fighters here because we are asking them for time during their fight preparation, which are very loaded and rigorous schedules. As always, we appreciate the time that the fighters are able to give us. So Rebecca will be joining shortly. In the meantime, let's move on to the preliminary card a little bit and talk about the top. Rarish Dragomir and Wilfried Abbey are going to be meeting for the middleweight MMA title. Rarish, another one of these guys out of Renzo Gracie. He's 4-0, an up-and-coming star, and he's got a very tough test in Wilfried Abbey coming up out of MOCD Hatchet. And James, I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on another Renzo Gracie guy going for a title in Flex Fight Series in Rarish Dragomir.
Absolutely. We got to see Rarish fight back in the New York versus Florida card, Flex Fight Series 10. And I remember being taken by his opponent. Like, his opponent had a very intriguing look. And he reminded me almost of Violent Bob Ross from The Ultimate Fighter, if you guys remember him.
Yes.
And I was taken by his opponent. His opponent was very intense at the weigh-ins, and you could see he very much had the "I'm going to kill this guy" kind of mindset. Whereas Rare is very, very humble, very almost Nart Goke in his demeanor, intense but kind and positive and humble. And man, as soon as Rare got his hands on him and dragged him to the ground, all of the fight went out of his opponent. It was honestly very impressive to see how stifling his ground game was. You know, his opponent was big and explosive, and when they were throwing when they were standing and throwing, his opponent was throwing some bombs. He was throwing some big stuff. But again, Rare stayed in there, got his hands on him, dragged him to the ground. And they always say in jiu-jitsu, there's the saying that, the ground is the ocean and I'm the shark. Rare's is the shark, man. He puts you on the ground, and it's very, very difficult for you to really do much of anything. He really stifles his opponent. And again, like I was talking about before when we were talking about Rocco Giambron, that Renzo Gracie background. If you're training in New York City, as we know Rare's is, you're on the mat with the Danaher Death Squad. If you're on the mat with the Danaher Death Squad, for sure you're going to be with the most elite grapplers in the world. I mean, the best grappler in the world right now is a gentleman by the name of Gordon Ryan, right out of the Danaher Death Squad. And he's a big dude, just like Rare's is. So I'm sure Rare's is getting some rounds in with him, which is huge. If you're rolling with Gordon Ryan, I really don't want much of a part of your ground game if I'm fighting you. So I'll be interested to see what Wilfred has for him. Wilfred's coming off of a split decision win in January. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, he hasn't fought. Neither of these guys have fought in a bit of a while. So it'll be interesting to see how they respond from that inactivity. Amateurs tend to try to stay as busy as possible, like Adam Baum was saying, fighting every other month. It'll be interesting to see these guys coming off of a little bit of a layoff, if that had any change in their preparation. TJ, you've been a part of Flex for longer than both Xaria and I. I'm sure you've got to see even more of Rares than the both of us. Tell me your experience with Rares so far.
Well, it's so interesting that we all think of the ground game. Obviously, the Danaher Death Squad, Renzo Gracie. He has that background and he is in that training room, but this guy's bread and butter is his hands. I mean, he's a very well-rounded mixed martial artist, but even right down to his Instagram handle, slip and counter, like very, very accurate. That guy's got a very good slip off to the right side, come back right hand, among a variety of other combinations that he has at his disposal. Very slick, long range, long reach for 185. So there are a lot of attributes that really provide well for Rarish going forward here. And Wilfred Abbey, like you mentioned, he's really not he's not a slouch of an opponent. Both of these guys with a little bit longer of a layoff than you would necessarily want in your amateur career. However, it's going to be very interesting to see how they've both taken that time to improve and kind of step up their games going into this title fight opportunity. And this being the first of 4 title fights the final of 4 title fights that we have on the preliminary card. The one prior to that is going to be Erin Brito versus Stephanie Walmet. 108 pounds is going to be the atom weight kickboxing title for Flex Fight Series.
Well, I just want to hop back before we move on to this fight. I just want to hop back to the Rares versus Wilfred fight. So I had a brief little conversation with Rares, and I've been, seeing him. I follow him on social media and seeing he's very confident going into this fight. And I got to speak with him a little bit, and he just said, everything is going great. He's so excited to be, back in the cage, and that he is guaranteeing fireworks in this main event of the undercard. So I can't wait to see what he goes in there and does. I'm really excited for this. Renzo Gracie, don't slaughter me. I don't know. I know that it's Renzo with an H. I don't know what. I think just reading it off the paper, my nerves got the best of me. So please don't slaughter me. I know it's Renzo and not Renzo. But yeah, coming out of the Renzo Gracie Academy in Manhattan and being in there with all, the best of the best, and having that striking background, this is going to be a big test for his opponent. And he's going in there with confidence. So it's an exciting one. And I just wanted to mention that quick before we moved on.
Absolutely. But speaking of moving on, we have to move back to our main event, because about to join us on the line, Dylan Mantello. I'm going to let him in, and here we go. The quiet man, Dylan Mantello. We have Dylan. There he is.
And there he is, Dylan Mantello, the quiet man, joins us here for the Flex Fight Series 16 preview show. He is one half of our main event on September 10th. Dylan, thank you so much for taking the time this morning.
Yeah, absolutely. What's going on, guys? Thank you for having me.
Anytime, our pleasure, man. And we're looking forward to a big main event here. This was very recently announced. Can you tell us a little bit about how this fight came together?
Yeah, sure. My last 2 fights were with Eagle FC down in Miami. They had to do a few shows back in Russia. So they said, you're free to kind of go around, and if you want to take a fight with another promotion, you're free to do that. So first thing that kind of popped into my head was Flex Fight Series, because I did a lot of my amateur career with them. I have a few of their amateur titles. We kind of they helped build my career as I was coming up. I had a pro fight with them as well back in Florida about a year or so ago. So if I could come back home to Long Island when they're doing a pro-am card, that was what I was looking to do: sell a bunch of tickets, put on a highlight reel finish, and build my career with Flex.
And Dylan, you mentioned coming back home in a way, back to what was Triton Fights Flex Fight Series now, and you mentioned your previous experience there as an amateur as well as a pro. And can you say a little bit about what that means to come home to fight on Long Island in front of your friends and family, right near your gym over there in Garden City? We're going just a few minutes east over to Melville. Can you talk about a little bit about what that means to you?
Yeah, it's great. I haven't fought with a crowd at all in a while, actually, because Eagle FC, they kind of have a private showing. So they don't really have tickets, so you can only get like 1 or 2 tickets. So it's been a while since I've fought in front of any crowd, let alone a home crowd. But yeah, I mean, I fought for Flex, and back when for other promotions in the area, and I always bring a big crowd, so people in the area know what to expect when I'm fighting. I go in there to kill, and it's kill or be killed when I'm in there, and that's how you get exciting fights. So I'm going to have a big crowd there. People have been chopping at the bit to come watch me fight, so I'm excited.
Dylan, it's such a pleasure to have you with us today. And it's very nice. We're actually in the same gym, but we've never got to meet. So it's nice to meet you over this conversation right now. But you are a very well-rounded fighter. You have wins from TKO, chokes, armbar. Your last fight was a doctor stoppage. So being that you are so well-rounded and you're excited to be back around the Long Island fans and everything like that, what is something different that you kind of want to showcase in this main event at Flex? And is there anything that you've been doing differently in this training camp as opposed to your previous ones?
Well, it's good to see you too. Yeah, no, there's a lot of people coming in and out of the gym at Law, and I'm kind of, I'm the quiet man, so I kind of keep my head down, and I'm kind of, I go about my business. So, I try to just stay on the path when I'm in the gym. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm excited. I'm well-rounded. As you know, Ray Longo's teaching classes every day. So I'm getting new techniques every single training session. I'm getting better. Training at Sarah BJJ. My jiu-jitsu's come a long way as well. So. I'm confident anywhere the fights go. We have, Aljamain Sterling in the gym, all these guys, Marab, Frivola, all these guys in the UFC. So I get to see the high level, and they kind of show the path, what we need to do to get to the high level. So, for this fight, I'm looking to put on another dominant performance. I think that, I've been working on adding my volume. I think that was shown in my last fight. You mentioned it was a doctor stoppage, but honestly, it was a merciful doctor stoppage because my opponent was wearing it pretty good, and he couldn't see out of his eye whatsoever. Might have had a broken orbital, so he was a tough kid, probably too tough for his own good in some ways. So, I'm looking to put it on my opponent. We'll see if my opponent this time can take the punishment that my last opponent did. I don't think he's going to be able to. Not too many people can, to be honest. So, I'm a sniper when I'm in there, but I can put people out with one shot if I have to. I can go down and break somebody's arm or choke them out, do whatever I need to do. But if the one shot's not there, I'm ready to go with the volume as well. I'll pour it on until the guy breaks too.
So looking at not only your opponent but also your own record, Dylan, I noticed the last fight you fought Dennis Hughes for a second time. So I was just curious, what brought you guys back together?
Yeah, so originally Eagle had tried to set me up with another person from AKA Jim out in California. So I was getting ready for that fight. He was a southpaw, so he was a wrestler, kind of well credentialed. And then that fight fell through. He said he had a hand injury, so it's been tough actually getting opponents. So a lot of guys sign, they get hurt or they pull out, or they don't want to fight or whatever kind of stuff. So it's actually been tough getting anybody to sign to fight me. So, Eagle did do the right thing. They kind of reached out to a bunch of people and said, hey, what can we do to bring this guy in? Because we're excited for him to fight. And, Dennis is a guy, he was a young kid. So he made a bunch of gains in his game. and said, hey, maybe I'll go in here and, redeem one of the losses, because I did beat him in my pro debut. So, I give props to him. He's got a lot of balls. He came in and tried to right a wrong, but, I've been growing as well. So, I think that my level raised, as much as his did, if not more, because this time I was able to get a finish out of him. So, he came in and did what he had to do, tried to take it to me, but I was a little bit too much for him that night. And, I kind of set the record straight that, I think I'm the better fighter at this time. And, I'm looking to finish just about every single opponent that I get in the cage with.
Finisher, you certainly are. Looking at your record between amateur and professional wins, 6 wins via TKO, KO, 2 submissions. So you don't you don't get paid by the hour, as one of my teammates says.
No, that's true. Yeah, no, they don't pay you per round. So if you can get in and out of there nice and quick. I have 1 or 2 finishes like under a minute. One was like 16 seconds or something. So you do a whole training camp and then you go in there and knock a guy out in 16 seconds. It's kind of bittersweet, honestly. You go in there and knock him out. You're like, all right, that was great. But it's like, man, that was a lot of work that I put in, going into it. But, I've talked to Ray about that as well. You just kind of have to look at it like, you're always building for the next fight. And, any time and training that you put into a training camp, is going to prepare your career for the next step. So even for this fight, I think that my opponent is definitely going to have his hands full. He's coming in to try to take on a young prospect. So he must think highly of himself. But even this training camp, I'm looking for to build myself to a point where I'm going to be at the next level, in another fight or two. So every fight, every training camp is an opportunity to get better, and that's how we kind of look at it.
Absolutely. And speaking of your opponent, I took a look at his record and his training history and so forth. I noticed right away some names that you can't look away from when you look at his fight record. He shared the cage with Sugar Sean O'Malley, with Julian Erosa, UFC veterans. One of my teammates has a highlight knockout win over Julian Erosa. No offense, Julian. But Julio Arce did head kick him and put him about flat. But awesome to see that you're fighting an opponent with that level of experience in his background. I think a very experienced opponent only brings more out of a great fighter like yourself. He's even got some bare knuckle fighting experience. That was his last fight, actually. It was a bare knuckle fight. What is that experience that your opponent has? Does that change anything in your training? Are there any particular riddles that you see he brings to the table different than some of your past opponents?
Sure. Yeah, I think toughness is probably his best quality. I think he's got some pretty decent boxing too. He's got over 20 professional fights. So, it's somebody that you have to take seriously. His record may not reflect that, he's a huge prospect or whatever, but, I train every fight like I'm fighting the world champion, so that's just how I go about my business. I'm a pessimist by nature, so I'm always looking on the bad side. So, I'm always overworking and thinking that I'm not doing enough. Sometimes guys are the opposite way. They think they're doing too much, and then they try to pull back, and those are the guys that end up unprepared. So, proper preparation prevents poor performance is one of the things that we go over in the gym. And I'm not going to be surprised by anybody in the cage because I'm training for world champions. That's just how I go about my business. He has experience. I don't know if it's good experience or bad experience. He has fights and losses against some top ranked guys that are doing well in the UFC, so that's good. I think the size might be an issue for him. I think some of those fights were at 145. So he's coming up to my division. I'm a lightweight. I'm a big lightweight. So we're going to see. We're going to see what happens. I like to box. So if he wants to keep it standing, we keep it standing. It goes down to the ground. I think he's going to have some problems there. So, I'm looking to put on a show. So he's a tough kid, tough guy. So hopefully he comes in here and he tries to bring it because, I'm going to meet him right in the middle of the octagon and we're going to figure it out.
See, that's a great way to put it. And I love the preparation prevents poor performance. Something Tiger Shaw, my coach, always says is you go in the cage thinking that you're fighting a nobody, but you train like you're fighting the world's scariest man. Paraphrasing a little, but still similar mentality.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, I mean, every training camp's against yourself, honestly. There's a Conor McGregor quote that goes like that. It's every fight's against yourself, and you have to figure out ways to beat yourself. And that's the only way that you're going to get better. If you go in and, that's kind of some of the problems that I had with my first loss. I had a first loss when I was fighting for my ring of combat title. And, I'd finished just about all of my opponents. I was about 7 or 8-0 at that point with the amateur career. So, it was hard for me to kind of find the avenues that I needed to work on the most to kind of get those gains. You know, you think that you have all the answers when you go in there knocking people out and finish them in the first round. So sometimes a little adversity is needed. And, you know, I took that to heart. I went back and worked on my game and used that loss to really make myself a much better fighter. And I think in this fight and future fights, you're going to see that, you know, I've grown every single training camp, every single fight, and especially coming off losses. You know, I've made huge improvements.
That's just a great mindset for a fighter, and the fact that you're using those losses like a professional to up your game only speaks as to exactly the level of show we have coming for us in our main event this card. I'm excited for it. TJ, did you have any final questions or comments for Dylan?
I actually wanted to circle back to something that Dylan had mentioned earlier. I mean, first of all, Dylan, in listening to you speak in this interview, it's very apparent that you have a very clear sense of direction and a very clear sense of discipline that I think is obviously partially attributed to you as an athlete, but also potentially partially attributed to the gym that you're working in, some of the history that's there, some of the influence. You mentioned the current bantamweight champion of the UFC, Aljamain Sterling. Merab is an up-and-coming contender in that bantamweight division. You obviously have the history there with Matt Serra and Chris Weidman both bringing belts there, and you see them on the wall every day. Can you can you speak to how some of that influence, the coaching there, all of the great energy in that room has helped to develop you into the fighter that you are today and put you in this place where you're really looking to take that next step in your career and move up to the next level?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, just from a philosophical standpoint, you know, I've come to the realization that, you know, in order to be a success, you have to have a, you know, identified goal and make progress towards that goal. You know, it's not necessarily attaining the goal. It's making sure that you have something out in the distance that you're working on, that you believe in, and you know, and then day to day you try to do things to get you towards that. And that's the real definition of success. It's not, you know, it's not world titles, it's not winning a fight, because you win a fight, everybody cheers your name, and then right after the fight, you go home, and who do you go home to? You know, who are what are the things that you know, really support you, and it can't be a constant quest to just have the next thing. So being at law, you know, it's amazing because you have guys that are out there that have reached the pinnacle of the sport. We have 3 world champions in the gym. Ray Longo is probably, in my opinion, one of the greatest of all time as far as trainers and coaches go. So when you're looking out into the distance saying, where do I want to be and what can I accomplish? You have guys that have been at the absolute top of the sport. So there's not really a risk of saying, you know, this is something that I can attain and then I'm done, you know. So you have a huge opportunity to say, well, how far do I want to go in this sport? Because I've seen people do it, and now it's really just up to me to decide, you know, where do I want to take it. So having those role models like Aljamain Sterling, Chris Weidman, and Matt Serra, you know, all the guys, Ally Quinto, all these guys in the UFC that have been there, done that, and made a good career for themselves and made a name for themselves in this sport. I mean, I love martial arts, so you know, anything that I can accomplish in this sport that I can stand on and show my kids and show other people on Long Island and the community, I mean, that's what I live for. So this is something that I've dedicated my life to. I love martial arts. I love competing, and I'm going to take this as far as I can take it.
Dylan, that's awesome to hear. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Xaria.
Sorry, I just wanted to give a compliment, Dylan. Listening to you speak, listening to your mentality. I mean, you are in a gym that is filled with, you know, so much talent, so much greatness. But I think your mentality is really something that is special, and that is going to, you know, has brought you where you're at. And you know, you spoke to the fact that, you know, you suffered a loss after having so many knockouts, and that loss made you grow. And that is just something that, you know, it shows the test of your character. It shows everything. And I'm so excited to see you in the cage on September 10th in this main event fight. And I'm just interested in, you know, what are some of the things you do, like you said, your support system that just, you know, keeps your mentality strong and keeps you focused on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that very much. Thank you. I mean, you know, it's not something that I can do alone. You know, I'd have to give credit to a lot of people, but you know, Ray Longo is really, you know, the silent master in the gym. You know, he kind of goes about his business too, and you know, he's influencing you in ways that you don't even really realize sometimes. So you know, it does take a bit on the individual as well, though. I mean, I've worked on self-improvement and self-development myself, so a lot of reading, a lot of, watching and learning people in history and things like that, kind of brought me to this point where I can, I can really assess what makes a good life and how to make character. And, adversity is part of that. So, nobody has ever, made it to success without adversity. So it's really just how you get down, how you get back up, fall down 9 times, get up 10 is kind of the thing. And there's no better way to prove that in martial arts. It's, you could do it in business, you could do it in your social life and all these things like that, but there's no hiding in the cage. The cage proves all and your training proves all, and there's no denying reality when you're in there. So it's the ultimate proving ground for truth, and that's what I love about it the most. So I try to be a leader for the gym. I try to represent myself well and represent the team well, and we have a few young guys coming up that I've kind of taken under my wing as well. So we're trying to keep it going. We're trying to have the legacy of Long Island mixed martial arts live on, and Flex is doing a great job with that. They're starting to do some pro-am cards here now. It really wasn't professional fights being done on Long Island until recently. So it's exciting. It's exciting to see it. The guys locally get to fight, and the guys locally that enjoy the sport get to watch it. So it's just going to snowball, I think, and continue to grow. So more athletes are coming up. Flex is going to grow. Other promotions might come up in too. So Flex does a great job though. We did my whole amateur career is with them. So they really know how to put on a good show, and I'm looking forward to it. September 10th, we're going to put on a good one. So I'm excited.
I'm so glad. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're
I'm
fine.
sorry.
So we're looking forward to having you back, Dylan. You are obviously at the top of what will be a historical card in New York State mixed martial arts history. This is the first all-pro main card outside of the UFC that has ever been done on Long Island. So we're very happy to have you at the top of that. And we really appreciate you taking the time today to give us this interview.
Hell yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it. It's an honor. It's going to be fun. So let's do it. I appreciate you guys doing the social media and stuff like this for this, for us fighters. So we're going to put on a hell of a show, and we're going to keep the ball rolling.
It's truly our pleasure, Dylan. We're looking forward to it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Dylan.
Have a good
Thank
one.
you, Dylan.
That was Dylan Mantello. Again, half of our main event on September 10th. He will be headlining the All-Pro main card live from Melville at the All Sports Arena. Again, Flex Fight Series 10 is going to be Flex Fight Series 16 on September 10th in Melville, All Sports Arena. You can get your tickets or order the pay-per-view via flexfights.com right up there. And we're waiting on Rebecca Brigman now. She's going to be joining us shortly. As we mentioned, just got out of her hot yoga session. She is very busy with her training leading into fight week. And just while we're waiting for Rebecca here, let's kind of retouch on everything that Dylan said. And I was very impressed with this guy's level of focus. It is incredible, the mentality that he's carrying in here. And you can see how that's been molded by years of competition and years of experience in that high-level gym that he's got over there at Longo Weidman MMA.
Yeah, it's wonderful to see, it's wonderful to see. That's the beauty of mixed martial arts, is that you're getting to see a mentality, creativity, and athleticism come together in a beautiful performance, and meeting of two different styles in a cage. And Dylan really has a clear understanding of that, and I really appreciate, I think that that's something that we do different here at Flex, is that we really take in all those factors into consideration, that not only are these athletes, these are artists, and these are, young talents that need to be developed properly. And I just, I am so excited to have Dylan on this card. And, I appreciate him being here with us at Flex and having so many of his fights at Flex, and just, mentioning that is something that we are doing different. And we are the first card, promotion from Long Island to have this pro show. So it's nice to see our fighters sticking with us and developing with us as we grow, because I know there's just going to be more exciting things to come.
I have to disagree with Dylan on just one thing. As a member of the Tiger Schulman's team and having gone to many, many fight cards where Ray Longo works the corner, I can't agree with him that Ray Longo is the quiet man in the corner. That's quiet has never been an adjective I ever felt like I could apply to Ray Longo. Case in point, if you look at the famous clip of him in Chris Weidman's corner in the first fight versus Anderson Silva, yelling at him to punch an effing hole in Anderson Silva's chest.
They need to be mic'd. Him and Sarah need to be mic'd in that corner because it's just like a comedy special. I mean, it's not, it's very serious, but it is because we got that Italian, New York, Long Island thing happening, and it's different in these parts.
Exactly. But man, he's right about the environment that he's in. In a room with champions, it's going to force you to level up. And I loved his professionalism. You know, we spoke with Adam Livingston about coming back off of the loss, and very similar, hearing Dylan speak about his experience with loss and what he's taken from it and how he's using those losses to get better. And he mentioned he's always better after a loss. Now he's riding a bit of a win streak now, a couple of wins in a row, but still, I'll be interested to see how much he's grown since the last time we got to see him fight on Long Island and in front of a crowd, because so many fighters really take that energy from the crowd. Like one of my teammates, Shane Burgos, there's a man that absolutely loves to fight for the crowd. And just knowing that this will be the first time Dylan's back in front of a crowd in a good little while, that's only going to help this guy level up, I think. You know, I mean, he's Italian like the rest of us, so we know he loves being in front of people. He likes to be the center of attention, and man, this guy is a finisher. So I'm excited for this main event.
That's absolutely, and that's something that I want to touch on, because if you are a person who has never been to a live MMA fight, it's the energy in that room is just insane. There's nothing, you know, I love all sports, but it changed my life. And I've been to boxing matches. It changed my life when I went to a live MMA show for the first time. The energy is just electric. And I'm sure that being a fighter, you know, and not fighting in front of your fans and then coming back to your hometown, fighting in front of a crowd, fighting in front of the people you love, it's just got to be so exhilarating. And so that much more, you know, the intensity in the room is going to be that much more because this is a fight in his hometown. And, you know, that I just can't wait to be in the atmosphere. And I'm excited that we gave him he's getting the opportunity to do that with Flex.
Certainly excited for that. I mean, that building is going to be absolutely packed out, I'm sure, with people chanting Dylan Mantello's name. We know the Long Island faithful are going to be out in force to cheer on the Quiet Man. And again, a very high level opponent with a lot of experience on the other side. And let's talk a little bit about Omar Avilar, because we have given a lot of attention, obviously, to his opponent, the hometown boy in Dylan Mantello here.
Yeah, I mean, looking at his record, when you look at the record of Omar Avilar, again, I saw a couple of names that really just jumped out at me. I mean, if you are a professional mixed martial arts fan, you know the name Sugar Sean O'Malley. And the fact that he was in the cage of Sugar Sean O'Malley speaks to two things to me. Number one, it speaks to a fighter who's coming up in weight, because we know Sugar Sean fights at bantamweight, whereas this fight with Dylan Mantello, it's a lightweight fight. So that's a 20-pound difference. I don't know if maybe Sugar Sean was fighting heavier back then, which is entirely possible. He's a very tall guy. Or if Omar Avilar is just filled out and now he's not cutting as much weight. And then you also see Julian Erosa also fighting at a lighter weight. If I remember correctly, Julian Erosa is a 135er. Like I mentioned, Julian Erosa shared the octagon with a teammate of mine, Julio Arce, and Julio scored a spectacular head kick knockout in that fight. Just hit it right behind a punch and bang, up came the kick. It was a thing of beauty. But Julio has bounced around at both 135 and 145. So I don't know where in Julio's career they crossed. But again, I believe Julian's a 135er. So again, that speaks to me of a fighter who is on the physically smaller side. And yes, smaller, sometimes we think it was a bad thing, but that's also a faster fighter. That's a faster fighter. Like we sometimes only think about the advantage of size and how strong, how much stronger the big guy is. But that smaller guy's faster. There's not that much of a strength difference, and that speed can be very difficult to deal with. And as Dylan mentioned, Omar's got some significant boxing in his skill set. The fact that he did bare knuckle boxing in his last fight speaks to how much he thinks of his striking skills. So that in and of itself is telling to what a stand-up war we should have. And we know Dylan is not exactly what we would call shy when it comes to sharing his hands. Xaria, what about the matchup excites you?
Just everything, you know, the level of experience that Omar has that's how you get better, is by having those experiences in the cage. You can't, there's nothing like, you know, preparation, obviously, you need to have your preparation. You need to have, what is that saying? Like, there's no, oh man, it's slipping my mind right now, but there's no luck. There's just a failure to prepare. It's something along those lines. So preparation is key, but there's no experience like the experience that you get when you're in the cage in front of a crowd. And to what Dylan was saying, you have to train for every fight, like for your next fight. So that experience is going to be key. One of the key advantages that Omar Avilar has going up against Dylan Montello, someone with such a strong mentality and who's coming from such a well-known and respected camp in the Serra-Longa fight team. So I just can't wait to see fireworks. I can't wait to see how Omar approaches this fight against Dylan. I would have loved to got to talk to Omar too today, but unfortunately he couldn't be with us. But yeah, it's just going to be electric. And like I said, like if you are on Long Island, you need to, we still have tickets left. We're in the All Sports Arena in Melville. But if you can't, if you're not in Long Island, you can go to throwdownsports.tv and watch the fights there, because these fights are going to be electric. Whether you're in the building or not, I think you're going to feel the energy of these two pros, coming together and battling it out, whether you're watching it from our live stream or you're in the audience with us.
And as you mentioned, you don't even have to be in the building. You just go to the website right above our head, flexfights.com, and it'll be linked right there for you to be able to order the on-demand or the pay-per-view, the live stream right then and there. You get to listen to us, not me, unfortunately, this time, but talk about the fights. Unfortunately, I have an engagement, so I will not be there on Saturday, but I will be there in spirit, and I'll be back for our post-show podcast to go over everything with you guys. But I'm just excited for this card, man. Every fighter we're talking to gets me more excited for this card. TJ, what are you feeling as we've been talking to these fighters?
Definitely a level of intensity here. I mean, you speak to Adam and you speak to Dylan, and just listening to all of the different things that they're doing to Adam has a different situation. Obviously, he's changing some things in his camp and in his preparation because he's now going to be fighting 5-minute rounds for the first time, 3x5. Dylan's obviously been there a couple of times, but just listening to what goes into the preparation, it's something that I'm always interested to see. Again, as somebody who hasn't been through personally a fight camp for a pro mixed martial arts fight, it's very, it's inspiring to me to see, like I said to Dylan, the level of focus and the level of determination and the level of discipline that they're able to put on display. And really, it makes sense because this all consistently comes together to culminate in spectacular performances for both of those guys. And really, for all the fighters that we speak to, that's one of the things that I always draw out of speaking to fighters is inspiration, because so much can be drawn from that. Everything that they're putting into it, there is so much sacrifice that is made by a fighter in their lives. And we see it now, it's tough to get us in for an interview right now because these fighters are working on preparing for a fight. We're now less than 2 weeks away from fight day. So again, as always, their time is always appreciated. Their inspiration, again, is always appreciated. It's not lost on me. So one of those elements that goes into making this sport and Flex Fight Series so exciting. And we are just waiting now to hear from Rebecca. We also have Rocco Jambroni joining us, and he's scheduled for about 15 minutes. So it's going to be fun to speak to him ahead of his pro debut. And while we have some time here, I think it's a good time to go back and highlight some of the prelim fights that we haven't gotten to yet. One of those being the flyweight mixed martial arts title. Khalid Battle is coming back up to New York. The ATT Valdosta product was successful in his last bout with Flex Fight Series back in December, becoming the flyweight mixed martial arts champion. And he'll be taking on a young gun out of 10th Planet New York City and Warriors Nation in Michael Shivsher, and another one of the up-and-coming prospects here in Flex Fight Series. And a really interesting and fun stylistic fight at flyweight. James, what do you have on this one?
Actually, Khalid, his last fight for us was back in April. In April, he fought Jared Braun.
April, not, I got my bones mixed up there. That was the title fight with
he lost that via unanimous decision. So I will be very interested to see how Khalid battles back from that loss, because that was one heck of a fight. Khalid's an amazing wrestler, and to see a guy in Jared Braun who was able to match him wrestling-wise was spectacular to see. It was a really entertaining fight. As someone who appreciates jiu-jitsu, it was really, really, really awesome. And it was just Khalid Battle. One of the things that stands out when you meet Khalid Battle The man's got the upper body of a 185er with the legs of like a 105er. Like he's got these tiny, tiny, short little legs on this giant upper body. Like the man is built for wrestling. He is built to grab and squeeze and throw. And he certainly put it on display in his last fight. And I mean, I was so impressed with that, with his toughness, how quickly he closed the gap. I remember he had some nice things to say about my suit that night, which was certainly nice of him. But man, he's fighting a game opponent in Michael Easton Shevcherian. Michael was one of the first fighters I ever got to commentate on for Flex, and he's again another guy who closes the distance so quickly. I was blown away by his wrestling and his fight versus Justin Arca. But to see him now fighting for the flyweight title, I'm intrigued, man. I'm excited. This guy's a character, Michael Easton Shevcherian, like big time confident. I remember speaking to him at the weigh-ins, my first ever weigh-ins for Flex, and he talks to me, and he was one of the most open books. It's like, I made improvements in 6 months that take people over a year to make. Wow, like,
And
this guy's kind of confident.
this is so exciting about this matchup is that both of these guys are going in there with a super level of confidence that is, I mean, I spoke with Khalik a little briefly, and he was just, his mentality is always ready. He's like, fight camp, schmight camp. I'm always training regardless. The only thing I got to do right now is just hit my weight and I'm ready to go. He cannot wait to step in the cage for us. He's so excited to perform. And, you know, the discipline of that mentality, just always being ready, that is something that, you know, a lot of fighters struggle with. So to have someone as game as him on our card is amazing. And to have him going up against an opponent with a very similar approach to the fight style, again, fireworks in the Flex cage. And I can't wait for it.
And James, you mentioned Justin Arca. He was the most recent opponent for Michael Shivshire, and Arca is going to be back for us at Flex Fight Series 16. He'll be taking on Darren Lamentia, another one of those mutant MMA guys who, in his debut, he's sitting at 1-0 right now. Spectacular knockout, and these mutant guys have jumped onto the scene really just in almost dominating fashion. I believe they've only had one loss so far with Flex Fight Series between, I think, 7 or 8 fights now. A lot of success for that gym, a lot of very strong fighters coming out of there. Lamentia is one of them, and Justin Arca looks to give him a test. Let's talk about that fight a little bit. That's one of the ones that jumps off the page when you look up and down this card.
You know that I love to talk about mutant power. You know how much I love to talk about Professor X and mutant powers. However, Rebecca is in and joining us, so I'm going to sign her in right now, and we will get to Rebecca's fight. I hope you guys are as excited as I am. Rebecca making her way in. And here she is.
Fresh out of the hot yoga studio, here is Rebecca Brigman. Thank you so much for joining us, Rebecca. We really appreciate you taking the time today. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Just enjoying the sun right now.
We can see that. Yes, soak it all in. We got just under 2 weeks left until the fight now. We can see you finally, you're making these final preparations here. And really, it's an exciting fight coming in for now what'll be your 3rd pro fight. And you fought for us very recently, just back in October. And can you talk to us about some of the changes you made, some of the improvements that you've been working on since then, getting ready for this upcoming fight now with Shao?
Yeah, well, I've been using a nutritionist who's also a strength coach. I've been changing up my my training regimen a bit, more intense training, you know, more cardio. A lot of things have been using a lot more like a weight vest. Also, I don't know if you've heard of the next generation, the breathing mask. Actually, you have to take a couple of weeks to enhance the breathing as well. I just got that in the mail. That thing makes me feel like Bane from Batman. It's actually pretty cool. But you have to take weeks and weeks to get up in the level changes to do that. It actually is pretty cool, intense training. So, yeah, I just feel great overall. I got a new diet, you know, everything feels great. I feel strong. I feel ready. Even though I'm cutting the weight, I don't feel depleted. Yeah, it's pretty much it for now.
So really focused on health, on cardio, on strength and conditioning. It sounds like that's been a lot of the focus for you. And I wanted to actually ask about a common opponent that you have with Samantha Schell. So as you're preparing for this fight, you've each fought Elise Reed, who now is in the UFC. She's been having a lot of success. What are some of the things that you took away from that fight that you're carrying forward with you? And did you have a chance to see Samantha's fight with Elise? And how do you think you compared?
I watched a little bit of it. I think Elise Reed is very experienced in MMA as an amateur as well. I think she's a very good fighter. I think she's got a lot going for her as well. I would like to fight her again in the near future. I think I had a bit of a I think I got gypped on that fight, quite honestly. In the first round, I was perfectly fine. I got teed off on a little bit, but I was getting in my groove, and I think that ref could have let the fight go a lot longer than it should have. I think both of us could have had a chance to beat her. As far as Samantha Shell's work on the ground, I think she is pretty good on the ground. But I think both me and Elise Reed have a chance of good game on the ground as well. So, sorry, my light on the thing went down. Hold on 1 second. Yeah, I don't know what happened. Hold on. I don't know what's going on with this light thing on my phone. Can you see me?
Yeah, we
Yes.
can see it.
All right. Yeah, I don't know. It just dimmed on the light. Okay. I have to go in the shade. Sorry. All right. So, yeah, Elise, I think she's pretty good. I mean, overall, I think she's good, but I haven't really seen any more recent fights of her. So I haven't really been up on her.
So in terms of Samantha Shell, how do you think that kind of helps you gain some confidence going into this fight, just knowing you've each had that common opponent, you're at that level where you think you're kind of taking that step ahead of her?
I think both me and Elise's striking is very good, and I think she's mainly focused on her ground game, Samantha. And I mean, I'm sure she's gotten better over the past year or so. So we'll see what happens.
Rebecca, it was so great. It's so great getting to talk to you again right now. The energy that you had at our open workouts was incredible. It was so great to meet and connect with you in person. I love your energy. And I love your whole mentality just going into this fight. I was very happy to hear that you're working with a nutritionist and you have a lot of that mental stress of the food and the weight loss, that it's not on you for this fight. And you're going into this fight 0-2. Samantha's coming into it 0-3. So you both, I mean, you both want this fight. And
we're both vengeance.
Yeah, you're
so
both good. It's gonna cause, fireworks in the cage. And also on top of that, you had 2 fights canceled, I believe, before this.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about, how that's been fueling you, and, where your headspace is at right now, that you've been able to be so clear without worrying about all these other things, nutrition and all this kind of stuff, that those things are eliminated. You have this fire in you. You've been waiting to get back in there. And now you have this fight that is like, it's going to be electric.
Yeah, well, I mean, the 2 fights that were canceled, I mean, I couldn't even believe. I was just like, one swap after the next is getting a little bit much. And I was just like, come on, I'm hungry. Like, I just want to fight already. Like, I just get like that, I just get hungry. I'm one of those people. I just like to fight, I've just got that warrior mentality in me, ever since I was younger too. I mean, my mom could even tell you when she took me out the womb, I was kicking and screaming. They took me out. I just had it, I don't know what to say. I feel the fire, fire with fire. That's what I say. And I'm sure Samantha, I'm very grateful to have her to be fighting me and take this fight. I mean, I wouldn't know what to do with the next person. I was praying that she would just take the fight and just like, please don't have another swap. Mentally, I feel so focused, and with all the meditation I told you I've been doing, and I do this weekly meetup with this gathering. They do this vibe cafe thing. You can look him up on Instagram. His name is Paulie_vibes. Give him a shout out. He does this weekly gathering where we have workshops of Kundalini yoga. We do kava tea. We do cacao ceremonies. We do static dancing. It's all like a energy release and the aura cleansing. It's really good for your soul and your mental cleansing. And it really does help. And it's been helping me mentally, has that clarity, and it's, the fight game is pretty much mental. And then like the other half is physical, if you're not mentally there, your physical is just going to follow. It's so true.
all the whole fight game, you know, that's what it is. It's about that melding of the creativity, the athleticism, those two worlds coming together. Well, three worlds, really: your creativity, your mind state, and your
Yeah.
physical performance. And having you representing for the women of this sport is so just, I love seeing you out there. I love that you are fighting on Flex, and you know, you chose to fight for us because I love your energy. I love what you stand for. You've been through a lot of adversity in the sport, and I think a lot of time, you know, people don't realize that it is challenging for women. I mean, it's intimidating for the average man to walk into a fight gym. So to see, you know, I know a little bit about your journey. I've did a little bit of research, and just to see you with a camp where you feel confident, you feel good, you have all, you know, the team around you seems strong and supportive. I just want to thank you again for
Thank you.
stepping back into the cage with Flex. And I'll give it over to James. Anything that he has to ask.
I feel like I'm going to pale in comparison to everything these guys have asked you, but I just wanted to talk about your history and your opponent's history a little bit. One thing that really stuck out to me is 5 pro fights between you guys. Obviously, you have your amateur record as well. So many unanimous decisions. And it's funny, a lot of people look at that as a bad thing. I don't. I look at it the other way. To me, that speaks to athletes who are ready to go for all 15 minutes. So please talk to me about what your opponent's bringing out of you in training to be ready to go all 15 of those minutes.
Well, I seriously, I honestly think I'm just gonna go, you know, full throttle, man. Like I'm ready. Like whatever happens in that cage happens in that cage, and what she brings out is gonna. I'm just ready for what comes. You know, I'm always gonna be ready. You never know. It's a fight. Anything could happen. I have my game plan. She has her game plan, and it's when it's time to go. It's go time. It's time to work. It's just another day in the office. You know, this is just my passion. This is my path, and I'm not gonna stop till I get to the top, and that's it.
I love that mindset. I love that mindset. That indomitable spirit, ready to just go 100%.
And I'm sure after the fight we're gonna be friends, and that's it. But in that cage for that 15 minutes, we're enemies. It's a sport, you know. We're just going in there to kill each other.
Exactly, but that's what a professional does: is they take friendliness aside for a little while, they put it aside for 15 minutes, they go to war for those 15 minutes, and afterwards everything else can fall into place. But you know, I'm very excited for this fight. You know, getting to interact with you with the open workouts. Unfortunately, I didn't get nearly as much of a chance as Xaria, because I got very quickly suckered into holding the mitts and the tie pads for Adam Livingston and so forth, getting his sweat all over me.
Yeah.
But so either way, still very excited for the fight. I know you found a gym now, East Coast MMA. I'm actually very familiar with them. I used to train with Neil Gonzalez, so I know all of them very, very well. So you found a great home there, and I'm excited to see you put on a show. Is there anything in specific that you want to let us behind the curtain a little bit to let us know to be on the lookout for, or do you not want to hold that close to the vest for now?
Let me think. Give me a minute. Off the top of my head, nothing really off the top of my head. Just watch the lights, the camera, and the action, man. It's just gonna be a war out there between two crazy individuals that are tattooed and ready to fight the fight. You know, we're warriors. We respect each other. It's just a fight, and we're gonna be friends after. You know. And I got a wolf shirt on. We're both wolves, technically. So I mean, I have wolves tattooed too. So like she says, she's the wolf queen, but we're both wolves. We both love the wolves. So it's just funny. So, but yeah, man, I just can't wait to get in there. It's a pleasure, and like I'm happy to be on Flex. I'm so grateful for this opportunity. Yeah, that's it.
Well, interested to see who's going to be the queen of the pack. Thank you so much for your time, Rebecca. It was a blast talking to you. You've got a great energy, and I'm just really excited to see you in the cage.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Rebecca, thank you so much for representing for the ladies and just being a role model to so many young girls and spreading the sport to more women out there, and just being you, being resilient. I'm so proud of you, and I can't wait to see your performance on September 10th.
All right, thank you. I can't wait either.
Thank you, Rebecca.
All right, guys. Well, with that, thank you, Rebecca, for your time. And it looks like we are ready for our very next interview, as Rocco Giambroni is signed in and ready to go. Thank you again, Rebecca. We'll see you on the lights.
See ya.
All right, so I'm gonna let Rocco in, guys, and get ready for the gentleman of flex fights, I'd like to call him. With that, signing in now, Rocco Giambroni. Thank you for your time, Rocco. That was an awesome interview with Rebecca.
The energy. She has great energy. I wanted to mention the Miley Cyrus thing, but I didn't know.
There he is. Rocco Giambrone has joined the show, the former Flex Fight Series Bantamweight Amateur Champion, now moving on to his professional career at Flex Fight Series 16 on September 10th. Rocco, how are you today?
I'm good, Goose. How you doing, man?
I can't complain. Things are good. We see you're in the gym. Thank you so much for fitting us into your busy schedule here. We really appreciate the time and really we want to jump right into it. You know, we got your pro debut coming up, and I'm always interested to see when we make this jump from amateur to pro, obviously going from 3 to 5 minute rounds, what are some of the adjustments that you've been making ahead of this fight?
It's nothing new to me, man. I'm in a room full of pros all the time. So first of all, love the stash. Burt Reynolds, like 2.0, bro, even better. Secondly, yeah, dude, I mean, there's no big jump. I'm in a room of pros all the time. So 5 minute rounds is like something we do on the reg. We tear it up on Saturdays with our strength, with our conditioning. So, I mean, it's just another day in the office as far as the rounds are concerned. But now we get to elbow and knee. So I'm super pumped for the rule set change. But as far as the output, the cardio, being able to go 5 rounds, I mean, that's pretty standard.
And can you talk a little bit more about that adjustment as well? Maybe not so much of an adjustment because obviously you're training all of these techniques anyway, but now being able to access that full toolbox, that full arsenal that you have, what is that going to mean going into this fight?
I honestly just think it's going to add to my ground and pound, you know, like being able to use my elbows on the ground. I think it's going to be a big factor in this fight. Other than that, I really just think it's going in there with my game plan, going in there with the strategy, and it's going to be, you know, a lot of people make a big deal about jumping from amateur to pro, but I mean, I've done it enough times where I could kind of manage my roller coaster of emotions, and it's just going in there and we're just having another fight, man. It's just another fight, but now this time it means something, and this time, you know, I'm making a little bit of money for it. But other than that, the motions are the same.
So it sounds like business as usual for you, Rocco, and you're riding obviously here a 5-fight winning streak coming into your pro debut, and like we mentioned, business as usual. Can you talk about just mentally some of how that momentum helps carry you into this next fight with a lot of confidence?
Absolutely. Well, I think just the amount of amateur fights I've had helps, right? Having 11 amateur fights and going through this process 11 times really helps me get a handle on exactly what I'm supposed to be feeling when I'm supposed to be feeling it. You know, like maybe whereas before I'd be a little nervous or I'd be like, oh man, you know, something's wrong, something's off. But I've done it enough times to be like, dude, everything's always off a week or two before the fight. You're never 100%. Something's always hurt. Something's always, you know, messed up. Can I curse on here or just no? No cursing?
Oh yeah, go for it. Yeah, free reign.
Okay. You know, something's always fucked up. But I've done it enough times where it's like, okay, we're going to manage this. We're going to get through it. We're going to keep the emotions down. We're going to change the word nervous for excited. And that's going to rewire my brain. I'm going to cut this weight. It's going to fucking suck. But we're going to get through it. We're going to get in there. And we're going to hopefully have a good night, man. You know, we're going to have a good night.
Rocco, it's so nice to be talking to you, you know, over video and meeting you this way. I'm so excited to meet you at Weigh and see you at Flex. We've talked a little bit over Instagram
Right.
about your fight camp and things like that. So thank you for being with us today. You're coming out of the Henzo Gracie training camp, so your ground game is on point. You're a purple belt there, which is a different level purple belt than other schools. You know, you really got to earn that because you're in a room full of killers every day. You're a 3-time amateur MMA champion. You've had wins by rear naked choke, 2 guillotines, an arm bar. So your ground game is solid coming into this fight. And I can't wait to see that with the rule change. Again, you know, you have those leg locks, the ankle, everything like that happening. But how has your striking changed coming into this fight as a pro?
We've just been chipping away at it, you know, day in, day out. I feel, believe it or not, I feel confident in my striking. I just never really, in the past couple of opponents, had an opportunity to show it. You know what I mean? Like my past 3 opponents, you know, it's gone to the ground. You know, when I fought Sterling, it was a big cage wrestling competition. And then this last fight against Gomez, again, just like it went to the ground. No one really wants to exchange with me. So I'm excited to go in there against the striker and, you know, and show what I'm about. Like, I'm no slouch. You know what I'm saying? Don't sleep on me. Don't sleep on the kid. I just haven't had a chance to really strike. You know, it just happens to go to the ground where I love it and where I feel comfortable. But make no mistake about it, I could throw too.
And what do you think has changed about your, if anything, you know, about your mentality going in as a pro now and having these new elements to the fight, elbows and everything like that? Is there something that helps keep you grounded throughout your fight camp and keeps you focused, while also taking on, you know, a challenge? Yes, you've had a lot of experience as an amateur, but you have this new rule set and everything like that. So what's something that helps ground your mentality? And yeah.
My so the one thing that keeps me steady, is my coach. You know, Jamie Crowder's an absolute genius. You know, he's a wizard in this game, and he keeps me inside the cage, outside the cage, on point, level-headed, you know, tells me what I need to hear, pushes me when I need to be pushed. But to be honest, the biggest change from the amateur jump to the pro jump is all the extra shit on the outside, man. These medicals for New York State are crazy. Got to get approved for MRIs, EKGs. Went to the ophthalmologist. Turns out I need glasses. I got a fucking prescription for glasses after the eye doctor. And then, like, getting these sponsors, you know what I mean? Like, trying to get paid. So, like, going door to door and you know, reaching out to friends and family. And I'm about to make a post on IG a little bit later, either today or tomorrow. I'm super grateful. I've had a huge response in terms of sponsors, and I'm super grateful for it. And we did real well. But that, with that, you know, being said, that comes a certain level of expectation. You know what I'm saying? People are paying for a product. People are investing in a product, but I'm the product. So I got to make sure that I'm, you know, crossing my T's and dotting my lowercase J's. You know what I'm saying? So there's been nothing left unturned in this fight camp. I have 3 more hard days. We have tomorrow. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 4 hard days where I could still enjoy my carbs, where I can still enjoy, and you know what I'm talking about, because you got ready for your comp, and I watch all your meal preps, and damn, they look good. I got to get some of those chicken sausages.
Thank you.
But you know, 4 hard days where we're gonna tear this motherfucker up, and then next week we go over game plan, we go through the motions, and we just get the weight off, and we'll be ready to show out on Saturday the 10th. Your birthday. I got a gift for you, Xaria. How do you like that? I promise. It's not a portrait of my face. It's not. It's way cooler. I think you're gonna like it way better.
Oh, that could have been special too, you know.
That would have been cool. Cool.
Well, I cannot wait to see you step foot in the flex cage. I am just so excited. I cannot wait. Thank you so much. I'm gonna give it over to James right now. I know you don't have that much time with us, but it was a pleasure getting to meet with you and talk to you. I can't wait to meet you at weigh-ins.
Same here. Thank you.
So Rocco, yet again, bringing guests cage side to the Flex Fights cage. I feel like this is becoming tradition for you. You're like the Flex Fight Santa Claus. It's everybody's birthday when you
Listen, that's the way I was brought up. You know what I'm saying? You got to get, right? So I'm fortunate enough to have a ton of support, family, friends, extended friends. What good is it if I just hoard it? I got to give it back. You know what I'm saying? And who better to give it back to than the people who help me out, who give me a platform, who you know, are giving me the chance and the opportunity to express myself and show myself so I could bring more in. So the more it comes in, the more it goes out. And that's the way it's got to be.
Beautiful. I love that positive mentality. But speaking about things that I loved, watching you in our cage just a few months ago with your win over Jose Gomez, that win via armbar, I was blown away by your ground game. Obviously, you see the Renzo Gracie background. You know the ground game is going to be good. But, man, I was really blown away with how skillful you were on the ground, how patient, how methodical. When I think of a good grappler, I always think of methodical, and methodical really stood out to me in your approach. Tell me what methodical things you've been working on in terms of preparation for this fight.
Well, that's probably my favorite part about the ground game, is that you don't get lucky. There's no lucky submissions. You know what I'm saying? You could throw a punch, and I don't like using the term lucky punch, right? Because someone's throwing a punch to hurt you, and if it lands, right? So in a way, maybe one lands gets through kind of lucky, but how lucky is it if someone's trying to hurt you? But there's no lucky submission, man. You got to be patient. You got to know what you're doing. And that's why I like being on the ground so much, is because I just think that there's a level of knowledge there that most of these guys just don't have. And to give all due respect where it's due, I gotta mention my boy Alvaro. I do a majority of my grappling work in Queens. You know what I'm saying? In the nitty gritty at my boy Alvaro's gym at Jiu-Jitsu. So yeah, I am a Renzo Gracie MMA fighter. I do my grappling here. I do my MMA here. But I actually do a majority of my groundwork in Queens with Alvaro Tautiva. So just definitely had to give him a shout out. So he knows what's up. He actually the one who awarded me my purple belt. But yeah, as far as what we're getting ready for this fight, again, more the same. Day in, day out. You know, it's 6 days a week, twice a day, baby. I've been a pro before I'm a pro. You know what I'm saying? That's why when you guys keep asking me, you know, what the big change is, I honestly don't feel the big change. This is what I do, man. I don't work. You know, I mean, I'm not a bum. You know what I'm saying? I train, I do personal training, but I don't have like a 9 to 5 where I got to do this on the side. This is my 9 to 5. I'm up in the morning every day. I'm in here at 10 to 12. I go home. I see a couple clients. I train again from 6 to 7:30. I see another couple clients, and that's it. That's a wrap. So I'm either training or teaching or watching film. This is literally all I do. You know what I'm saying? And then that's it. So I think that's another thing that set me apart from the amateurs, that a lot of these guys, you know, some of them had kids. Some of them got other obligations and shit. I'm a unicorn, baby. 34 years old, single, no kids, not divorced. I'm ready to rock and roll. And now I'm turning pro. So, I mean, it's going to be fun. We're going to have a good time on September 10th.
Awesome. Well, maybe you can use that highlight right there for your Bumble profile after the fight.
No, that's the one thing. I don't do apps. I think apps are corny as fuck. It's got to be organic. It's got to be in person. You know what I'm saying? The apps don't work for me.
I am never one to let the truth get in the way of a good joke, so go with me there. But looking into your opponent, Anthony Sanchez, the only pro experience I see on his record is a majority decision win in pro boxing. Does the fact that he is a boxer by trade, so to speak, does that change your approach at all? Does that present a unique riddle to you or anything like that?
So first and foremost, I'm always going to give respect to my opponent. I never shit talk. That's not my style. You know what I'm saying? I'm a class act, and I pride myself in being a class act. So when it comes to Anthony Sanchez, there is no taking anything for granted. I have an understanding that he may not have an extensive grappling background. I know he's more of a striker than anything. But that being said, the game plan stays the same. The strategy stays the same. The tactics are just going to be a little bit different, right? So there's strategy, which is the overall what we're trying to do, and then the tactics on how we're going to implement that strategy. Now that I'm not going to get into detail, right? Of course, but I'm not leaving any stone unturned with him. I'm taking him super serious, and come September 10th, I'm going to be ready. May the best man win, but I'm going to be ready.
I love it. See, I wasn't going to ask you for anything that needed to be held against the vest, but I always like to hear what the fighter thinks about the unique riddles that their opponent brings to the table. And gentleman is certainly a word I would always use to describe you, Rocco. Always super professional. Like I said, like you said, you were a professional long before you were a professional. Not just in your preparation, but in your approach, from the weigh-ins to how you interacted with us, the event staff. I've always felt you to be a concert professional, and I look forward to you finally be able to put the word professional on your mixed martial arts fighter on your business card.
Awesome, man. Appreciate that. Yeah, me too, man. Me too. Very much looking forward to it.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for the time, Rocco. I appreciate you making the time for us in a busy schedule. TJ, did you have anything else for Rocco?
I just want to give Rocco one chance real quick. If there is one thing, I mean, obviously you're a well-known person within our promotion, within the fans on Long Island, but we're drawing a lot of new eyes here, man. Going pro, we're getting to a big arena here. We're going to be pulling in a lot of people from all around Long Island and some new fans who aren't so familiar with you. Is there anything that you want those people to know about you going into September 10th?
I'm a hardworking, blue-collar, red-blooded American. If you want me to promote your brand, if you want me to promote your company, your business, I'd be proud to do so. And you'd be smart to team up with me at the ground level. That's my message.
Wonderful, Rocco. Thank you so much for taking the time. Always appreciate it. This has been a fantastic interview. We really appreciate you taking the time, and the best of luck to you on September 10th in your pro debut.
Appreciate that, brother. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, Rocco.
Thank you, Rocco.
All right, man.
See you soon.
Later.
Later.
That was Rocco Giambrone, again, making his professional debut on September 10th. He'll be taking on Anthony Sanchez, and really looking forward to that fight. Really looking forward to this entire card up and down. And we've had some spectacular conversations today with a lot of our higher level fighters, our pro fighters coming in on the main card at Flex Fight Series 16. And man, Rocco was such a fun interview. That was such a great time.
That was awesome. All of our fighters today, like, it's interesting, you know, we got different energies from a few of them. We got the serious, we got the more, you know, I don't want to say matured, but we got a different side of Adam Livingston from his interview. And then we had right after that, Dylan coming on and kind of having a similar experience that Adam just went through, you know, having those knockouts in his amateur career, not really having to go the distance and then suffering a loss. And it just made Dylan come back stronger. So I'm really interested to see how that plays out in Adam's career, now making his transition as a pro. Rebecca, again, her energy, just the challenges that she's faced, you know, in finding her home in this sport, finding a fight camp, and her just sticking with it as a female in the sport. It is hard because this is such a male dominated sport, and there are so many less women to train with and just have as a support system around you. And like a common theme for all of our fighters today was having that support system around you, whether it's in the gym, outside of the gym, both is so important. So I'm so proud to, you know, have Rebecca on the card. She's fighting a beast in Samantha Shell, and you know, that fight is going to be electric. They both need this win, so I'm happy to see them both out there representing for the ladies. And then to Rocco, I mean, he just he has phenomenal energy, and you know, everything, James, that you've said. I don't think I've ever got to meet Rocco. I haven't got to meet Rocco in person yet, but everything you've said, he's lived up to the generosity, because it is my birthday on the 10th and he's got something coming. So, you know, just all of our fighters, all the fighters here at Flex, you know, they're different, and our promotion is different. And, you know, just having this special energy, everything come together. And the rest of our card, I mean, there's so many fights on the card. Like, back to the females, there's Mila Hill versus Dariella Colon. Mila Hill is the granddaughter of Grant Hill, NBA legends. You know, and then we also have Erin Brito coming up from Florida to fight Stephanie Walmat, which is going to be a crazy fight. That's the second to last fight on the AMI prelim. So it's just been like, I'm just so excited for the 10th. This is the best way I could possibly spend my birthday. And I'm so excited for this whole card. I'm so excited to be there with you, TJ, and James. I'm sad you're not going to be there, but I'm happy you're here with us today. And, you know, how did you feel about all our interviews?
I loved it, man. You know, I like whenever we get together and talk about fights. I mean, there's something I think the three of us do exceptionally well together, and let's talk about fights. And the fact now that we got to add that extra element of the pre-fight interviews with these fighters and see behind the scenes a little bit, I thought it just added a whole other element. You know, hearing from Rocco, hearing from Adam, hearing from Rebecca was spectacular. Seeing Dylan in his professionalism and in living up to the nickname of the Quiet Man MMA, like I love it. I love it. These guys just brought it again, even in the interview, and I'm ready to see them bring it in the cage. Like you said, unfortunately, I won't be able to be there in person, but I will be there in spirit, and I'll be there to watch the live stream. I'll be back for October, don't you worry. And we will make sure that I've done everything I need to do to be here for a recap afterwards, so we can talk about how spectacular these guys put on a show. Just amazing energy. And I mean, so jam-packed with interviews, we barely got to talk about the preliminary card, and there's 20 fights, 20 amateur fights in the preliminary card, 15 of which are MMA. We have another title fight we didn't get to touch on, an amateur flyweight kickboxing title with Josh Ribeiro and Ricardo Rangel. That's going to be awesome. That's a rematch. I'm excited for that. There's so much to look forward to on this card. If you want to be there, or if you want to watch pay-per-view, go to that website above our heads, flexfights.com. Get there, buy your tickets, order the pay-per-view. Don't miss out. TJ, any closing thoughts for us?
I think you said it all there, James. We are all very excited for September 10th. Flex Fight Series 16 is going to be a movie. There will be fireworks. Up and down this card, we have, obviously, as we mentioned, 7 pro MMA fights on the main card. We have 15 MMA fights and 5 kickboxing fights on the prelims with 4 titles on the line. Again, like James said, flexfightseries.com. He took the time to design these beautiful backgrounds for us so we can all just point right up and say, this is where you get the pay-per-view. This is where you get your tickets. Get on up there. You do not want to miss this. If you are a new MMA fan, if you are a seasoned MMA fan, if you're a kickboxing fan, if you just like violence, if you just like to party, get on down to the All Sports Arena on September 10th, Flex Fight Series 16, and Xaria's birthday.
Yay! So you know it's gonna be a real. We're like our Andrew says, you know, our commentator. I'm sorry, our ring announcer. We are the EDC. We are the EDC of MMA promotions. It's always a party. There's always crazy energy. And like I said, like if you've never been to a live MMA show and you've been to boxing events or what, you have to come down and spend the day. Please spend the day with me. It's my birthday. But also that's the least of it. We have so much talent on this card. We have 4 title fights on the undercard under our pros, and the pros that we have are spectacular. And I can't wait. I really hope that you guys can join us on the 10th in Melville at the All Sports Arena. And I can't wait to be there with you, TJ and James. Your spirit will be there in my heart.
And like our matchmaker, Chris Machi likes to say, it's going to be a movie. It's going to be a movie.
That it is, and this concludes our Flex Fight Series 16 preview show. For Xaria and for James, I am TJ Ragusa. This has been spectacular. An enormous night of fights to look forward to on September 10th. We will see you there.